All right. So we're talking about how people perceive us. Again, it's important to know how you see. First of all, like what you really value and how you come across. Because sometimes you value certain things, but you don't come across that way. Does that make sense? So like I was sharing, I like living in America, white people might not understand who I am. They might just stereotype me as an Asian person, you know. And like no matter how hard I try to like fight the stereotype, right? That's just how they perceive me. But it's important for me to know, so I don't just get frustrated. Because you can just be like, oh, people are so stupid, or like, all right. And a lot of times people just default, like, fine, you seem that way, I'm just gonna be that way. I'm just gonna be that nerd you expect me to be, you know. So that's the first question. And the second question then, when you go to another culture, it's just to be aware of how you come across to somebody. Some people are just not aware of how they come across. So for example, like, such people who are just really aggressive in the way they talk and like, or just really straightforward, people are offended. Like, how come everyone thinks I'm rude? I'm like, well, it's because of the way you talk, you know? Like, especially in Asian culture, if you got to someone's face and like just talk really closely, right, what are they gonna think of you? Right? They're gonna think you're rude and like upfront, and you might just be really friendly. Right? But you gotta just think about that. Like, how are people perceiving you? Not just like, how do you want them to perceive you? But how are they actually perceiving you? Alright, so those are the first two questions. What do you try to avoid? Regina, what are some of the things that you are scared that people will think about you?
Look irresponsible. Look messy. And I don't want to be perceived as a foreigner.
Okay. Speak louder so Jessica I can hear you too.
Irresponsible, messy, or foreigner.
Okay. Adam, what are you trying to avoid? What perceptions are you trying to avoid?
Just sound like I know everything or I'm better than them. I like being able to relate with people.
Immaturity and aloofness.
I should probably tell that in pretty early. In Chinese cultures, when age is highly valued, when you're a young person, it's going to be hard to not be seen as immature. Right? I mean, that's just the reality of Chinese culture. So kind of just be aware of that, and like, you know, in America where it's kind of like fun to like joke around all the time, I think in Chinese culture sometimes it's better to get more serious because you already have that perception of being young and immature, you know. And then, I guess for me, the thing that I try to avoid the most, yeah, I don't want to be seen as a person who is kind of like, you know, aloof and like doesn't care and kind of just like wants to do his own thing. I get that it's that perception of like, I guess being intimidating, right? I'm always scared that I come across as intimidating people, you know, especially when they're smaller and like, you know, girls and like that. So I try to avoid that. Why do you laugh at me, Regina? Why do you laugh at me?
At Harvest, one of our brothers introduced David as like,
Intimidating.
he's like, he looks really big, but then he's like a kitten or something.
Yes, I'm like a kitten. Pretty much more accurate.
That's very well.
Okay.
That's exactly it.
Yeah, I see.
What do you most enjoy? The way, again, this is a cross-cultural survey kind of thing. So it's like, what do you most enjoy about being in your host culture and being in another culture? I most enjoy getting to know people and their story and being able to be open and just share, you know, what we really value, you know. I don't want just to do things to do things, but I really enjoy actually getting to know someone, you know, be part of their life. Austin, you go.
Exact same thing. I enjoy the fact that you can be really open and that people, I guess because you're American, they want to know you more too, and they want to. And then I think that what you talked about before too is that it's important to be considerate, because you want them to feel special too, you know. And so like I think I like to emphasize that.
I'm saying similar, genuine and warm. Just creating an environment where you both feel safe to be yourself, where you don't really have to try and put out an act or act a certain way so that they would feel comfortable. Like, oh, I'm gonna act like I'm more American, or like how I think that Americans would act, or I'm gonna act how I think Chinese people are gonna act necessarily.
I put it as like values, like I put sincerity and approachability, so I feel like maybe I'm different than them, but then they'll still feel like open to talk to me like as just on a level of person without culture being like a barrier.
Okay. What sort of people do you prefer to work with? Indicate major characteristics, traits, or qualities. I strongly prefer to work with people, well, who are professional first of all, but kind of think that I really like to work with people who are competitors. Like people, whenever they're faced with a challenge, they want to win. You know, again, this goes. I've played sports my entire life, right? I've been captain of a lot of sports, and so to me, like a quality I really enjoy is when people are faced with a challenge, instead of just giving up and telling me how hard it is, they're like, you know what? It's a challenge. Great. I love challenges. You know, like that trait. Like I love working with those kind of people. So, Austin, go.
It's similar to you, but I think I like people that are willing to invest time in getting better at something too. So usually it's sports people too. Maybe not necessarily competitive, but I like people that are willing to come out and they're willing to spend time and to learn whatever they need to learn to do something. And so yeah, I wrote guys and basketball, but I think that's like I didn't realize what the question was, but yeah.
No, that's well. Let me ask this. Why do you say guys?
Especially in social immigration. It's kind of, I guess I relate to them. I don't know. And I think I was thinking mostly ministry too. I think that's probably the main reason why I wrote guys. Because reality is I can probably, not really. I mean both girls and guys. But.
Well, something you can't do. If you said sports, a lot of not very many sports, guys and girls together.
Right.
You know, that's the reality.
Badminton.
Okay, badminton.
Yeah.
But badminton is probably one of the only sports where guys and girls are pretty fair. If like basketball, it's pretty messed up. Like guys and girls together, it's pretty unfair. Football, it's really unfair. Actually, soccer is pretty fair. Guys and girls, it can be.
It can be.
It can be. Yeah. Volleyball can be pretty fair.
Volleyball.
Yeah, but badminton, I've seen some like 7-year-old ladies like play badminton. Like, dude, I'd be schooled by you. I'm in such good shape, but I would get schooled by you like 7-year-olds like running around. Adam, go.
I said people who are extroverts and are focused. I guess not aloof.
So even though you're not an extrovert, you like
Yeah.
extroverts. Interesting. Okay.
I think it makes the dynamic easier because
Yeah.
I mean I'm fine playing off somebody else, but
Yeah.
I'm not the greatest like initiator or.
I hate other extroverts. I'm just like, dude, you're so loud, dude. Calm down. Calm down.
There could only be one.
I put a list.
Okay, go ahead.
I put trustworthy, responsible, convicted, flexible, and humble.
Okay. And why do you say those things?
I guess because you want to be able to depend on the person who you're working with to like pull their weight, kind of, and then also that they would believe in what they're doing, so that gives them like, the strength to do it like right. And then flexible because a lot of different things come up when you're doing ministry, and you need to be able to like be flexible without reacting to it. And then humble because there's differences between people when you work with them, and then you just need to like be humble and accept them or like work with them.
Regina, I'm glad you said flexible because I don't think you would have said that maybe 5 years ago.
What?
Right. It shows a level of growth in the ministry. That's good.
That's good.
And what sort of people do you prefer to be with for social and recreational activities? Indicate major characteristics, traits, or qualities. Yeah, when we talk about social and recreational, I want competitors and winners. I was telling Augustus about this, and I was so upset talking to him because he's like, you know, but the thing is, Dave, if you play too hard, people get hurt. Right? I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, whenever I play sports and people play to win, people get hurt. Right? I'm like, so you don't want to win? He's like, not if people get hurt. I'm like, what are you talking about? Yeah, I think even in social and recreational activities, I like when people take, it sounds stupid, but I like when people take like social and recreational stuff seriously. You know, like if we're playing video games, I like it when people would like actually like play the game. You know, not just like, oh, I suck, and like, oh, I don't want to do this anymore. It's like, it's not fun to be with people like that. You know, like no matter what you do, they're like, oh, I don't want to do this anymore. So, major characteristics, traits, qualities. I guess it's a determination. I guess a desire to put effort in. Like my most hated thing in the world is like people who are apathetic. Like I hate that the most of anything in the world.
Yeah.
So, Gina, what about you?
I guess social and recreational. Like they're relaxed about what they're doing. That sounds a little different than yours.
Oh, it's fine. I'm different. Carmen says the same thing.
Oh, okay. Yeah, like you don't have to like for social and recreational you don't have to like aim to do anything. But just like kind of hang out with each other, appreciate each other's like company and put that the team is more important than the like the goal for me that's what I think.
When me and Carmen play World of Warcraft, same way. Like I want it's up the difficulty. It makes it more challenging, right? Carmen's like, no, it's fine. I just want to work together with people. You know, I'm like, this is boring. It's too easy. I want a challenge.
Say people with sense of humor, warm and genuine. I think it's okay, like, if people don't want to like do something, as long as they're like honest about it and like they're okay, you know. They're not like complaining and stuff.
Yeah, I said like a good sense of humor, fun, willing to talk about life, empathetic.
When you say fun, what do you mean?
Creative, maybe. You know, like they have I guess it's the attitude and the way they just, you know, they go after something too. Like there's joy in it. There's optimism. Very optimistic. So.
When I hear you say the word fun, I'm thinking like when people play charades, right? And some people are, like don't play charades very well. They're like, movie, okay, movie. What is that? Give me anything, right? They're like, what is that? You know, because they don't want to get into it, you know.
Yeah.
So, is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's good too.
I don't want to put words in your mouth. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. Like I think there's a part of me that wants to say empathetic and they're like the attitude, but there's also an aspect like they're funny too. You know, like they're really into what they do and excited.
Here's some important questions now. And how do you relate to beggars and panhandlers when they confront you on the street? Actually, sorry. We'll go back. There's one more. How do you feel about authority? How do I feel about authority? I feel like when I say the word authority, I see the word responsibility. So more than anything, I see a person of authority as the chief servant. That's how I view authority. And what I mean by that is that person then has to take the reins. Like that doesn't mean just like, you know, that person has to be like quiet. That means at some level, he doesn't have to be loud, but at some level he has to say, I accept responsibility for what is going on. I will take the reins. You know. So very much so, like I take this all the time. I hate people who are just bad leaders and refuse to admit they're bad leaders and blame others. Right? Like it drives me insane. Like here's an example. So Sony, right, mega Japanese corporation. The CEO just stepped down. Okay, and when he stepped down, and they asked him like, "How come this year you guys lost like $10 billion?" You know, it's like, well, we were on a great track, but except there were earthquakes, floods, and tsunamis in Asia this year, and so there was no way for us to da 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 da. I'm like, so you're basically telling me that you did everything right, and everything that went wrong is God's fault. right? Against tsunamis, earthquakes, right? Like, that's real good, all right? That's the kind of guy I would follow. You know, a person who's right and blames God. You know, it's like, are you making joking me? So, all right, Virginia, how do you see authority?
I wrote a person who has a vision and will guide the rest to complete the mission and be a part of the vision.
Interesting.
I didn't write like, I guess your perspective is kind of from the person who leads because you led, but then mine is from the person who's part of the group. So.
Okay. But you said vision, though, right?
Yeah.
So a person who's part of a group should have vision.
The leader should have a vision and know how to complete it, and then the rest of the people should be part of having his vision and then completing it as like people who are doing things that the person who's a leader or an authority thinks is best, I guess.
You said the person his vision. So you think authority should be men? That's an honest question. And you know I'm complementarian, so I'm not gonna just rail on you.
I think it depends on what it is.
Okay. Okay. Well, let me ask you this: are you more comfortable with a woman leader or a male leader? In the context of what we're talking about.
For
Right.
missions.
Yeah, for missions, not like for like.
I think I'm more comfortable with the male leader.
Okay. I'm not talking about like playing football or like raising kids.
Okay.
All right. I'm talking about giving parameters, you know, like changing diapers. I want a man in charge of this. Okay. Adam.
I said I'm respectful of authority. I view it as like responsibility to whoever they're in charge of or responsible for, and so I view like consultatively leadership as something that's really good.
Let me ask you a question. Do you guys ever feel like that word authority is a bad word? That's an honest question, because this culture thinks that way sometimes. Is authority a bad word for you? Be honest with yourself.
I don't think so.
Not for you, Virginia.
I think sometimes it can be abused if you see through history that like people abuse their authority and power.
Well, let me ask this question. In your personal life, have you seen authority abused in a way that was hurtful to you?
Yeah.
Austin? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. And like did that personal experience like just really like diminish your view of authority, or is it do you still have a pretty high view of authority?
What do you mean by that kind of thing?
Respect authority.
Like I'll give you an example.
No.
like the best example is me and Carmen's view of authority is very different. My authority is not. I view authority as not in the law. I view authority as in the person, right? Because I was in the Marine Corps. We had a bunch of rules and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, a human being is a leader. The law is the leader, right? So here's an example. Like me and Carmen go to the movie theater, right? I'm like, hey Carmen, we have like an hour for the movie we're going to watch. I'm just going to go sit in another movie. She's like, don't do that. You can't sit in another movie, right?
You told me that before.
Right? and so I'm like, okay, but if I ask the manager of the movie theater if I can sit in the movie, and he says yes, right, then I can go and do it, right? He's just like, well, you still shouldn't do it. I'm like, he's a manager.
Yeah.
Why is he a manager if he can't make rules, you know? So I go to the manager's like, I don't care, go ahead. Right? I'm like, he just said yeah. She's like, Carmen, he's like, you still shouldn't do it. I'm like, the manager just looked at me and said it's okay. You know?
That's really
But it's like her view of authority is the law says this, right? But I'm like, you know what? If we don't have authority over the law, then we're not really leaders, right? We're just basically robots who are just meant to execute commands, right? So that's my view of authority, is that a leader at the end of the day has to take charge, even when the rules are different, you know. So I'm not saying she's bad. I'm not saying I'm better, right? All I'm saying is that's how we view authority. And again, that my view comes from the fact that I saw it in the Marines. A lot of the rules don't make sense. And that's why we have people in charge. And then we say something in the Marines, we say, people don't want to be managed, they don't want to be led. Right? And so when I see like a bunch of like just rules and stuff like that, it's like, oh, let me make sure you're following this rule, I'll like manage you this way, you know. But the way I see it is that rules are there to help you lead, to give you parameters with which you lead. So you have in a way, a check of power, but to also understand like what your responsibilities are. So that's the way I view authority. Regina, you might differ from me.
I think I follow the principles of that leadership. So
Okay.
like I follow the actions of the person who's leading, but then I also hold highly to like the principles above him. So it's not like the law or the rules that come from those principles, like the actual act, but it's more like, is this person honest? Like, is this person like respectable? Is this person honorable? Those kind of things. So I hold on to that as a leader.
Okay.
Yeah. It might be a little different.
And that's important for me to hear. So do you feel like you're closer to Carmen in your view of authority?
Maybe because she holds. Sounds like. Well, she explained this to me actually. She's like,
Okay.
I can't stand it when people go to like movie hopping.
When they get permission.
She didn't say that, and she didn't give the example of you, but she just said in general
That's
when we were
funny.
talking about, I think this kind of thing.
Mhm.
Maybe she thinks that it's a very high principle to like not do movie hop because it exudes a certain kind of quality to her.
I mean, here's another example, right? And I love this story. So I got the Verizon Galaxy Nexus for like a month, right? And you have to pay a restocking fee when you return the phone. So I used it for like a month, and I was returning it. But then when I was using the phone, they had like 4 days where there's no service, you know. So I was returning it. I'm like, I understand there's a restocking fee, but you realize for 30 days, there were 4 days where I had no service, right? And they're like, well, it cannot be credited or refunded at all. I'm like, that's fine. I go home, I email them, right? And the guy calls me on the phone. He's like, yeah, we cannot credit or refund you. I'm like, okay, I want to speak to your manager. And the guy's like, all right, he'll call you within 24 hours, you know. But he'll tell you the same thing I'm telling you right now. It cannot be credited or refunded. I'm like, that's fine. I want to talk to him anyways. Within 5 minutes, the manager calls me back. He's like, I understand what's happening. I will credit you right now. Back with the restocking fee. Right? I'm like, I don't understand why this